How's it going, everyone? Can you guys hear me? Okay, there we go. I can finally see myself. Took me a second. Guys, this is Anon. None of this is financial advice. This is for entertainment purposes only. What's going on, Drake? Raid? Jerry? Sorry for the late start, guys. I think I told some of you guys my mom was being honored for a award, and she had a party that was in her honor. Tonight was the actual award show, so I got home a little bit later than normal. Had to put the kids in the bath, and I was reading my daughter Anne of Green Gables. So, we were. I've never actually read that book before, and I didn't realize that Matthew Cuthbert dies. So sorry for a spoiler, but she was like, "Daddy, why did he die?" I'm like, "Oh no." She's like, "Why did he die?" I'm like, honey, I don't know." Like, she's 4. Like, that's a pretty foreign concept to her. And I'm like, "Oh no." Like, how do I? She's like, "Well, how did he die?" I'm like, The book didn't say. It's like an animated picture book. I'm like, he just held his chest, so maybe a heart attack. Like, I'm guessing. I'm like, so if anyone knows how Anne of Green Gables, how Matthew dies, you can let me know. But my daughter and I were reading that book, and she was like traumatized, and then I had to like sit there and try to figure out how to explain that to her. Yeah, congrats to Mom. Thanks. Yeah, I'll let her know you guys. Morning shot. That's all right. There's speculation that CryptoSlam is because big money is getting ready for margin calls. If that's true, do you think an AMC squeeze will trigger us? So I actually think that there's two sides to this. If you actually look up the smart money, and I'll show you guys what I think. I think basically these hedge funds basically drew a line in the sand, and they figured that the only way to fight fire was with fire. And so what I think ended up happening is, I think a lot of the guys that were short GameStop went long AMC, if I read these filings correctly. And so they're using AMC to basically anchor themselves against margin calls on GameStop. Now, I'm just speculating, but like, if you look at the 13Fs for AMC, and we can pull this up so you guys can see, and we can pull this apart. This is just what I was reading on like somebody's Reddit, so I should probably look myself because I have not deep dove into that. But I told you guys the people who are who have the most amount of money are actually sitting there and they're shorting the SPY. So the SPY going down for them is good. Now, that's not every single person, but like Citadel is shorting the SPY. So is Susquehanna, Jane Street, all the big like hedge funds. Let's see. So if we go to filings, and we go to institutional ownership on AMC. I just want to see the largest ones. So Vanguard is long AMC, so is BlackRock, or at least it looks like that. Both have millions of shares. Wanda America is an insider, and then let's see who has the most amount of shares. Yeah, so if you want, I'll pull over, I'll screenshot this and so you guys can see this. Now, I don't know if this is 100% correct, but what it looks to me is that, and maybe this is why the AMC and the GameStop communities are not getting along as much, is because it looks to me like, I'm opening it right now for you guys. Here you go. Look at the top ownership, right, of AMC. So this is AMC. Vanguard's got 47 million shares. BlackRock's got 43 million shares, right? But then Susquehanna, who is someone that, they are sitting there and they have 14 million shares. State Street's got 13. Jane Street's got 13. Susquehanna has both calls, it looks like. Citadel's got calls on them, right? And they'll have puts too, but I mean, like, because that's how they always do it. They hedge, but they're hedging long, it looks like. So I don't think, like, everyone keeps saying, like, oh, Citadel. Citadel is long, it looks like, net long on, and so is Jane Street and Susquehanna. They all are net long on AMC. So that's like them fighting fire with fire in some ways. Like, if you think about it, let's pull up GameStops just to see if the same names are in there too. But I've heard this, the speculation that basically, the reason why the GME guys are all kind of like against the popcorn stock is because they know that they're using that to leverage themselves against. All right, so let's pull up shares for GameStop. Now, these guys are all, well, I'll let you guys see. It looks like they're playing this both ways. They just have positions on both stocks. But GameStop, it looks like they're kind of neutral. Like, if it goes either way. Let me just pull this up real quick so you guys can see it. All right. So here's GameStop, right? So GameStop, you've got Vanguard with 5 million shares. Susquehanna's got calls and Susquehanna's got puts, and they're about the same. Now the question is, do they have short interest along with that? BlackRock's just got 5 million shares there. Citadel's got an almost equal amount of calls and puts. Jane Street's got calls there and puts there. So Jane Street is long GameStop, it looks like, based off that. So there we go. But, we'll go back to AMC then. Susquehanna, 14 million there, and Susquehanna only has, so a $3 million difference on puts and calls. Let's see. IWM's a huge, but that's a end port. So that's covered somewhere else. It's probably in the 13F somewhere. Just reading through. All right. But yeah, so I would think it's more likely that if either one of them loses control, you could see like a run just because. Let's go back in history, right? So let's pull up the SPY. Let's go to the daily, right? Sorry, let me go to the daily time frame. Daily 3 years, right? And we want January of last year, right? All right, so this is the beginning of January. This is the GameStop run-up right here, right? The SPY was starting to tank when GameStop was running. Here's the 28th. Let me go a little bit further, sorry. This is the 28th. That's when they shut off the buying. Or they shut off the buy side on GameStop, AMC, all the meme stocks. And look what happens afterwards. Right? We have this nice little run up. as soon as they stopped that, right? Then they had to cover back in February. Look what happens. All right, let's match it up. So here's GameStop. We'll go to this, right? So here's the 26th, 27th, 28th. 28th right here. Then let's look at costs because it ran up that same time frame. Look at this thing. It ran from like $1 to like 100 and something. Yep, that's the 28th. So my point is, like, you can actually see on every single one of these meme stocks when they lost control. Right? This is the 28th, I'm guessing. 27th. This is the 28th. That was BBBY. Let's look at... I mean, AMC had a small run that day. I think it was right here, right? It went up to like $20. It was like a mini squeeze. AMC's biggest one came in, I think, a couple of months later, in August, right? That was when that ran to that. But this is where this one started. And then if you look at BB, BlackBerry, what day was it? Of course, the 27th, 28th, right? What was the other ones? Nokia, same thing. Yep, 27th, 28th. So, yeah. I've noticed that the community, GME, despises AMC and their whole community, but AMC are indifferent and oblivious to the hate that GME has towards them. That is very accurate. McCulkin. Yeah, I mean, so I think the reason why is like GME did like a lot of work on like uncovering like all this market manipulation. A bunch of really smart people got together, and then AMC was like, "Yeah, what they said," and it's like it's not the exact same thing. Like they're two very different companies. Like GameStop had eliminated all their debt through their ATM, whereas AMC like still had billions in debt even after like 2 ATMs. So it's, they're obviously different stocks, different places and where they are. But, AMC shows you that with brute force, anything can be accomplished, because if enough retail traders obviously piled into the same stock, no matter what happens and won't sell, you get something like this. And they stack the options chains and all that stuff happens. And like that can happen on any stock at any time. Like Aterian's the same story. Like whenever there's an influx of volume and people buying, the FTDs start stacking up. That's what you get. Like, HUSA. Look at this volume. There's 8 million shares on this stock. Free float. They're trading, what was that, 100 and almost 200 million shares on that? Yeah. Like, even Redbox, right? Redbox is getting what? Like, it's like 2 million float or something like that, and they're getting like 30 million volume. Like, yeah. This was 154 million in volume on a stock that has, like, it's the problem with the market. It's the problem with the T plus system. How'd they do after hours? I didn't even look. So it went down to 9, so another 70 cents down. Okay. See how it looks in pre-market too. Is anyone in on Redbox still? Any 32 of you? All right. I didn't push this out to everyone. I've got puts on Redbox. Yeah, I do too. I'm still bitter, like super bitter about yesterday. I shorted on Friday at 16, and TD Ameritrade called me and said I had to close the position by 1 o'clock. So I sold it at like 17 or something like that because it was coming up on right before like the 1 o'clock deadline. And as soon as 1 o'clock hit, and I had already sold out for a loss, the stock dropped like a rock. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. Like, I'm pretty sure I'm just going to go ahead and call TD and be like, okay, that felt pretty dirty, and see if they'll give me a price improvement. I don't know if they will or not, but that seemed really, really dirty because the stocks, I would have been short at 16. No, I didn't get margin called. They literally called me and said, we understand you have enough money. We just don't have the shares. So we're forcing you to close up because we don't have those shares available. So I don't know if there's a difference between that because I had plenty of money to actually support the short. Yeah. Can we check the FTDs on DTC? Yeah, that's fine. Let's take a look. Is that data out now? Yeah, I've never heard anything like that too, and I'm pretty sure they basically just screwed me. So, and I don't like that. So let's pull up DTC real fast. Our nice. This thing's gonna pop at some point and just blow up. Like it could cause a double bottom. That's kind of where I'm like thinking is double bottom and then just whoosh. But I don't know what the legality of that is, but I'm pretty sure I'm gonna be like contacting a securities lawyer and finding out if they are able to do that because I love you, man, but that's karma. I mean, I still have puts on it. It's fine. I mean, so here's my deal with Redbox. Redbox intrinsically is worth nothing. And so I'm well aware as of Friday that they can reinstate warrants. So I don't think there's much upside anymore on that stock. And if you disagree with me, that's fine. But I'm here to make money. Like, I understand that some people think that this is going to go to GME levels. I'm telling you now, it's not. If they have those warrants reinstated, this thing's falling like a rock. And not only that, but if the merger news comes out sooner than expected, it's going to drop like a rock. So, I played it on the way up, but I'm not going to hold forever on that stock because that stock's intrinsically worth nothing. Like at least with Aterian, when you bought the shares, at the end of the day, they're still a real company. Redbox is going to go through a merger, and yeah. All right, so let's pull up DTC, and we want to find out FTDs, right? Short interest. FTDs. Okay. So they had 452. We haven't gotten the new information though, right? Here, I'm going to screenshot it for you guys, but I don't think they've put out the new information, or at least Fintel hasn't. Let me see if there's another site that's got it going. I guess I could go to FINRA and see if they have it up. DTC FTDs. Okay, so I'll open this up for you guys so you can see it. But here is... So yeah, I mean the last report they did have a large spike. That 452,000 shares, which is worth equivalent of like 2.2 million, failed to deliver at the end of mid-May. So I can't believe TD did that to you. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty crappy. So, because that stock dropped like a rock after that. Like it almost felt like it was specifically targeted towards me. That's what it felt like. I know it isn't. It was probably just like, but like they literally called me up and left a message saying that like they were going to have to close the position for me if I didn't close it myself. I'm like, well, you guys gave me these shares. Like, I let them expire in the money, and you issued me a short position, and then they called me to tell me mid-morning that I had to sell them by 1 o'clock, or else, yeah, it just, something doesn't sit right there. Okay, so let me look up another place for FTDs. Let's see. Let's go pull it up on FINRA, FTD data. Or we can go to the SEC, right? The SEC put it out. All right, for anyone that doesn't know, you can go to here. I'll put it on here for you guys. You can go to that website and you can download the data, and then it pulls it up in Notepad, and then you can go Control F and you can find who you want. So in this case, that's OTC. There's DTC, and you have to go through each one, right? So in this case, there it is, Solo Brands. That one was 10,000. That was on the 10th, maybe? 63, right? 6,300. And then that was the largest one. So they haven't come out with the new stuff yet. Yeah, the owner recalled them. That's the only way the owner can sell, is to recall and get them back from whoever has them. Yeah, well, they shouldn't have let me have them then. I'm sure I will be screwed and I will lose money on the trade when I should be up hugely, but it is what it is. All right, so if this is the same one, was there 45,000? Or sorry, 452. Yeah, so this matches this number here. So we haven't gotten any new data for DTC yet for FTDs. So, but the last one was this one right here, which that's a large amount to fail to deliver on a stock that really doesn't have any float. I think some of you guys know I've been covering this for a while. I did call finally and speak to someone at DTC, which is Solo Brands, and the number I was given was basically just a customer service, but I did speak to them, right? And in particular, they gave me they said they would pass my note along to investor relations if they could find a number for it, but that was not their department. So, all right. Yeah, so Aterian, we want to go to that next. Aterian had an interesting day, right? We had a nice run out of nowhere up and then came back down, right? So a lot of people are confused. They're like, what's going on here? What is going on here, right? It seemed to come out of nowhere. I told you guys the other day, when you look at springs, typically what ends up happening is they usually have downward pressure, they get to a point, and then they just pop back up. Let's look at this last one. You had downward pressure, right? You get downward pressure, hit that low, boom, right? Finished red. Everybody was super depressed for that day. The next day, though, you saw some movement up, and then movement up. Even though you finished. Now, these are. We shouldn't use this chart. Let's use this one. All right. Let me go to. Let's go to the 1 year real quick instead of the. Let me move some of this stuff. Oops. It's probably fine. All right. So, let's take a look at this right here, right? Pushed down, right? Came back up, finished. Here we go. And each day we started pushing a little bit more, right? Even though we're finishing technically red, these like spinning tops are then consolidating, and then we're going to see the move start to go up, right? So you hit that low, kind of consolidate in this range. Now we're making higher highs, higher lows on the way up, and then that's what we did until we ramped to like 7 and then came back down. So whenever you see this push down into that spring level, and the springs don't have to be at a specific, like they don't have to match each time, like they can be at a different level, because we got an earnings report in here, right? So our numbers have changed since then. So I would expect the number to be slightly different based off of the new numbers for the spring test. But this is us here. I mean, I wasn't expecting it to happen today. I was expecting it to happen tomorrow, but we'll see. We'll see what ends up happening. Like, this is just a weird market to trade in right now because nothing's certain. It just feels like everything's up in the air, and there's so many factors that change. And the one nice thing is we're starting to see, and I'm not telling anyone to do anything in particular, but I am saying that if you guys want to look into something, the FinTel, this has nothing to do with advising you to do anything with your money, but if you wanted to see your shares on Aterian, my recommendation would be to register with FinTel so your shares are counted up in the float, because we're getting some actually interesting information, and Rakishma had put out this for you guys from the Discord. And what it does is it shows you the total number in value change percentage in blue with the ATER price change. And basically what he was doing was he was explaining that, all right, so your total dollar value of retail shares in price, right? This is basically obtained by the FinTel float percentage. So it's basically showing that like the ownership's either is locked and there's nothing added or removed. The two bars would be identical each day. So if nobody was buying or selling, then these numbers would be exactly the same each day. But basically what he was showing us was that, we are seeing actual movement, especially in this. We have a positive price change, and we also had a value change. So you're seeing new people adding, and at the same time you're seeing new people buying, or the same people that are registered with FinTel are actually buying, and we're actually able to see that. So you see how these are the exact same. So we had a price change, but nobody sold, right? So of the 300 people that are registered with FinTel or whatever number it is, you don't see any price movement, right? And then if you look at the other two dates, the 11th and the 12th, these were actually people adding shares over the weekend, because it's the weekend, so there was no price change. But you can see there was people adding their positions to that date. and then you could see the price was changing, but there was not as much selling. So it's basically showing you that people are not, how do you register from Canada? Unfortunately, and this is part of the problem, because all the international people, there are people with like literally, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of shares in foreign countries, not foreign, but like in other, outside U.S. markets, that are not able to register these shares on Fintel. Apparently, if you want, you can write Plaid, who does the like interface for them, and see if you can convince your broker to link this thing. But like, as of right now, I don't know if there's a solution yet. But the U.S. ones, this should be something that could, be very helpful, because what we're able to see then is we're actually getting a snapshot each day of what retail is doing on this stock, and so far it's been overwhelmingly positive. Now, granted, we're obviously a lot of us are people who bought Aterian and have been buying Aterian, and at this point, I think most of the people who were in it, the non-believers, they're already out. Like if they were just playing it short term, they're already out now. So you're seeing now, even at this point, what was the data of? Let me just pull it up real quick. Yeah, you getting tired? Same, man. I heard that yawn. Yeah. No, I just had a long night. I mean, I'm up usually in the mornings at like 5 to 6, and then I work a full day, and then I come down and I stream for you guys. So my days are pretty long right now. It'd be nice to not have to, do that same grind. But at the same time, we're trying to be here for you guys and walk people through things if they need it, and answer any questions I can. If not, I'll try to find it out for you guys. But the one thing I wanted to show you was, because I have some of these tools I know some of you guys don't have access to, so here. So I can pull up, for example, the companies with the most retail ownership, right? And that would be Aterian right now has locked up 7.54% of the float, and I think that number will grow. So all right, let's see. Okay. They put out a new one for DTC. Is that what's going on? Let's take a look. What was the date? Are you saying there's a new one, Carl? The MACD, yeah, the MACD fell flat. So if you actually take a look, we had that one green day on the MACD, and since then it's just been red. But we're still very tightly wound. So if you actually look, like literally you can't even see it right now. It's just so tight. There's just a slight green day, and we'd be touching again. So at this point, it's kind of like a neutral move on the MACD, so it's not there. But I posted on the Discord corporate structure. It's a very strange IPO. Yeah, I mean, the whole thing is just like bananas as far as like how complex. Like, this is one of the most difficult like IPOs I've ever seen, because you've got Class A's, Class B's, but then you also have like an LLC inside there, and like they also have yeah, operating companies, some partners, pre-IPO holders, and then public stockholders. Are you Kung Pao Mako? Is that you, Carl? All right, I'm just reading through. Yeah, if you don't mind, I'm just going to pull this up for everyone to look at. So, like, just to show you guys how, like, stupid complex this thing is. All right. Look, so here's your solo brands, right? So you've got Class A common stock, right, which has percentage voting interest, economic interest, same thing, but you have voting interest that's equal to the same as Class A. So normally Class A and Class B have different like voting rights, and it all depends on how it's structured in their IPO. But they're 1-to-1 basically, if I remember correctly. So that was like, okay, so why the difference? But I mean, usually Class Bs get paid out before Class As, so it's a weird structure. I just never seen one like this. And then you've got your public stockholders. That's us. We just have Class As. But Summit, though, had 29 point something million Class A's and another 14 million Class B's, right? But it's got like this LLC thing as well, right? Which, yeah, this is super. Yeah, it's done to retain ownership and voting rights. The problem is the LLCs don't need to distribute income. Yeah. All right. So I'll just walk you guys through some stuff that I found, right? So I was showing people this today. So from the Bloomberg, right? Here, from the Bloomberg's recording right now. So shares outstanding for the stock is 63 million. Bloomberg's reporting 80 million between insiders and institutions. That's like directly from the Bloomberg. So 63 million is the shares outstanding, and Bloomberg's reporting 80 million on the stock. It's, yeah. So not only that, but then I showed people this, which was, or I think I updated it here. So then I was showing people this, which is, okay, you have your shares outstanding, 63 million, right? What you do is you take out insider ownership. So I calculated all the Class A's that were reported on either a 13G or a Form 4 and an SEC Form 4, which is basically reporting insider ownership, buys and sells. So I calculated all this up, and I got 53 million Class A shares. So that would be your insider ownership. So what you do normally to calculate a float is you would go ahead and take your 63 million and you would subtract out insider ownership, because those people are probably not going to be selling or lending, and that would give you your float of about 10 million shares, right? Easy. Well, the problem is, then I went through the 13Fs, and the 13Fs are showing that there's an additional 12 million in ETFs and all these other things, which means that normally when you calculate a free float, you would take the institutions that are long and you would subtract them out, and that would give you your free float. But in this case, it's negative, because you take 12 away from 10, you're going to get a negative number. And then on top of that, there's short interest of about like 2.7 million shares, which means that technically you have an interest or short interest that's over 100% of the float. And these guys don't have warrants on this either, so it's even more like okay, well, why is this all like? If you use the S3 method, is you take your short interest plus your float divided by your short interest, and that's the S3 method of calculating your free. all these numbers are insane. So if you use Fintel's numbers, like I can show you the screenshots of every single Fintel numbers, but they're reporting 34 million in insider ownership, but 81 million in institutional ownership, which will give you like 500% short. So I don't know what's going on with this thing. So if you guys, I'm trying to get investor relations to talk to me because I don't get it. Like, I mean, I've been doing this a long time, and I've never seen a float that quite looks like this. So, Carl, what do you think? I mean, you're obviously somebody that looked at this as well and went, okay, how are they getting these numbers? Like, I'm at a loss. I'm at this point ready to just, I called the company and tried to get them to speak to me, and they were like, well, we can't do that at this point. What we can do, though, is we can try to get investor relations to reach out to you. But I followed up with another email. They won't write me back, and I just want someone to walk me through this because at this point I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. Yeah, the cost to borrow is less than 10%. Like, and the numbers they're reporting on Ortex are like tiny. So like, something's going on here. Like, I just don't know quite what, because I mean, I'm sure it's something I'm missing. Like, it's got to be, right? But I just need to know what I'm doing wrong so I can learn and show you guys, and because I don't know how many times you'll see floats this complex, but like. For me now, it's like a point of contention because I need to learn how it works because I've never seen one like this. The only thing I can think of is there's some confusion of the LLC ownership versus the corporate ownership. Yeah, but like where? Like I mean, I showed you guys. Like I went through every single like. So which one's the one? Because like all of these, right? We could say au pairs, but like you just throw that under institutional ownership then. It would just be added over here. But these guys are technically listed as insiders. So au pairs sitting here, MB Alternatives is here, Summit's got that, and I'm not even including their Class Bs. Like Summit's got another 14 million in Class Bs. They also have the other guys they acquired, like Chubbies and stuff like that. They have an additional Class B shares that they're issued. Like, none of this stuff matches up. Like, it's crazy. So I'm hoping that I'll get clarification from the company themselves because I've never seen one like this before. Like, typically, like, it's fine to have Class A and Class Bs, but the way they have all this stuff structured is, like, super, super... like head scratching. Like, I'm sure there was a reason for it. Like, there must be some sort of reason to make it that complicated. Maybe it was just how the company's set up and, with all these acquisitions. But like, I don't know. Like, normally your floats don't look like that. They look a lot more straightforward. But like, yeah, I mean, the fact that Bloomberg's reporting 80 million shares, like, on a stock that has 63 million, and they're all like that. Like if you look at Fintel's, I just want to solve this for myself now because now I'm like feeling like, all right, I need to learn what's going on here for myself at this point. So let me do this. I'm gonna see if I can. All right, where is? Here we go. View. Right, so they're saying there's only 7 million shares, right, as a free float. So like, this thing's kicking my butt right now. I've not figured out why or how they got this thing to work like this. All right, so here we go. Like, yeah, it's protect voting rights and institutional ownership. I understand that. But LLCs have a lot of power depending on the operating agreement. Here, look at, like, here's another one. Like, so here was the ownership, right? 11 million shares I came up with 12 million once I went through all the 13Fs. But then here, look, between their insiders and other ones, they're reporting another like 80 million. Like, and that's not including the insiders, like your Form 4s. Yeah. Like I've asked some other people. I asked a professional who literally like does this stuff, and he was like, I don't know if I have a quick answer. He goes, at a glance, this is the numbers I came up with. But he's like, there's obviously something going on here underneath that I don't quite get either. So he's like, I'd have to look into this further. So hoping somebody gets back to me, and whether it's the company or my buddy who works in the industry, and I can show him this, and like he can maybe walk me through where I'm missing. But it's super confusing. Like, all right, moving on. Let's talk about whatever you guys want to talk about. I mean, like, I know everyone's like, well, what's Aterian going to do? I don't know at this point. Like, tomorrow is going to be a pretty critical day, because tomorrow's basically like where you're going to start forming your option stuff, and typically if they want to bait retail into like buying some premiums, like I think if I remember correctly, last time I looked, let me just see if it looks like options are going down on Aterian, which the only way they're going to get options to go back up is to let the stock kind of run a little bit loose. So let's see how that goes. Pull it up. I'm going to pull up the options change just so we can see it. Yeah, like interesting. So they did start stacking the 250 puts, and there was a good amount added today. So some people are still playing, some people are still playing. So I'll go ahead and I'll show you guys what I'm looking at, so you can see. Let me do all the. It looks like we can almost fit 2 on here, so let's do that. ATER options. Okay, so people are still saying Redbox to the moon. Yeah, I mean, if you believe that, and I hope it goes to the moon for you. But I'm going to be honest with you, I don't think it's going to. I'm on the other side now because I've been around long enough where I understand that merger play is going to be basically. Every time I hear a merger say this time it's different, I think back to Spurt. Like, seriously, like that's what it just. This time it's different because it's not the exact same setup. Anytime you're dealing with a merger, most of the time retail gets screwed. So I'm just telling you, I'm done being on the other side of that. So I heard they're going through a merger and that this stock is going to be put at a 0.087 ratio. That to me means that this stock is going to go down to like $4 or $5, and there's nothing retail can do about that. Like, these guys will short it into the ground for as long, because they know at the end how this ends up. Like, they'll eat every FTD, they'll do all these things because in the end they know the end result is going to be the stock is going to be significantly lower than it is right now. And as long as they know that, they'll win. I know people don't like hearing that, but like in this case with mergers, that's how it works, because the merger is finalized. Once that merger happens, that stock is going to be converted at that particular exchange, and then there's going to be nothing to it besides that. So, all right. So anyone that's up in Redbox and thinks it's going to squeeze to 500 a share, I hope it does for you. But in my experience, whenever a merger's involved, you're going to probably get murdered. It's just the plain, simple truth of it. Retail gets screwed over on mergers. All right. And that's not me spreading FUD. That's, I'm being asked my opinion. My opinion is I've seen this song and show before, and I know how that ends. And it's not usually good. So I figured once it ran up to 16, I would go ahead and buy some shorts, puts that I let go in the money, and then they made me sell them for a loss. So I ate some karma, but I do have some long dated puts on it, just knowing that where the stock's going to go eventually. Did you catch the ticker for Aterian, AMC, and Redbox today? All three exactly at 1600 had 2 trades. Aterian 27K, a change, Redbox 34K and change, and AMC had 300. They don't show up on the NASDAQ ticker tape. Huh. All right, so you said it was exactly at 4. Oh, you know what it could be, Carl? It could be, so off-exchange stuff settles sometimes at the very last tick of the day. So sometimes you'll see a huge spike up like on a thing, and what ends up happening is they're basically having to deal with all the OTC stuff. So what you'll see on those last candles is a huge imbalance. And that's basically all the shares that probably should have been hitting the market but never did. And they got routed through a dark pool. So that's how they show up sometimes. So that just shows, kind of the corruption and technically it's legal, so it's not corruption, but the fact that your shares that you're buying and thinking it's going to affect the price, and them just washing them out through, payment for order flow, it's dirty. The market is not free and able to price discover when that happens. So you can have no price discovery on the stock when it's being controlled by the big guys. And it happens all the time, so yeah. So it was 2 trades, the exact same. Yeah. So those are probably the off-exchange shares, all kind of just showing up on the tape. But they don't really show up on the tape, but you see them on the stock screeners typically as like a huge lineup, and maybe I can see it on. Sometimes on these ones you'll see it like a Weeble. Yeah, you can kind of see it. No, that's just the grid pattern, right? But sometimes you'll see this huge like lineup to like here, and then you'll go, oh, what was that? And it happens on all the meme stocks. Or it happens on many stocks. Even the SPY does it sometimes, but mainly on the meme stocks when, they're pushing a lot of stuff off exchange. Like, for example, we were going to cover Aterian's option chain. Sorry about that. Just to show you guys, here, you've got 250s right now that are technically, we finished above that, right? So the question is, how many of these puts are sold puts, bullish puts, and how many of them are, bearish? And it seems like this seems to be like a line in the sand. That retail is like, all right, I'm fine buying down here. Yeah, and could it go to 3? It's got a little bit of, open interest today. We'll see. I mean, the stuff's cheap. I mean, look at this. Like, we're 3 days out, and you can get, these things for like 4 cents. So that just shows you what kind of market we're in right now. But I mean, if you had a ton of money and you could create a really cheap gamma ramp, but you would have to have enough buying pressure down here to really send it up. But I mean, if you had like $15-20 million, you could really do some damage on a market maker with things this this price. Like, I mean, you could lock up the entire float. No problem at all. Like, just lock up the entire float in the option exchange when they're this cheap. Like, literally, like a penny for like a contract. Yeah. Be like $100 a con. Yeah, I mean, you could really do some damage if you really, had a lot of money. Yeah, well, it all depends on what, like, but you got to have volume, and we don't have that right now. So, but I mean, it's there. Like, going forward, it's there pretty much every week. If this is how this, these are going to form up. You start looking at the prices on some of these things, and like, it gets, the cheaper it gets, the more there's incentive at some point to somebody to walk by and go, "Huh, we could probably move that for not a whole lot of money, make some good money." And if a gamma ramp starts to come close to forming, then make a DD, that would help. Yeah, I'm sorry, guys. I was gonna say, I know it's taking me forever to write DD. It's just but I've got these projects that I'm working on now, and then come down, stream for you guys, and then go to sleep and do it all again. And I need to get it out. It's just every day I'm like, I wish there was more time in the day. Just been busy at work, so. What are my thoughts on the $4 max pain? I mean, I don't think max pain's $4. Just eyeing this chart right here. I guess technically, if option or puts are that much more expensive, then yeah, I guess it could be $4 for max pain. I was gonna say there's not a ton of stuff, but yeah, like if they really wanted to, because this stuff's so cheap now, like up in this range, I mean, they could push it to like 5 just to burn these puts if they wanted to, if they so chose to, because they would probably collect more premiums in this area than in this area. But well, it depends on, how this works and how this goes as far as, like, if this starts getting stacked up, and they'll have every reason to burn these. No, I thinking about it more, like, the fact that there's, like, all these 1700 up here. There's a good amount of premium up here. But I mean, it all depends on what this adds up to, like the actual like math numbers on that. Like, that's who you see will burn. I'm losing steam, guys. Let's see. Sorry for the short stream, but I'm getting super tired. Need to probably hit the sack. But yeah, I was gonna say, anything else you guys want to cover before I go to bed? I think at this point, we've looked at the option chains. I mean, there's calls are cheap right now. I'm not recommending anything. I'm just saying, at some point, these things are getting scooped up for like pennies on the dollar, and somebody could make it move really, really quickly if they had a good chunk of change. So, yeah. Thanks, Jason. I will get some good sleep. As soon as I hit the bed, I'm gonna go to bed. All right. Thanks for the stream. Thanks, Danny. Appreciate it. If you guys aren't part of the Discord, please join us. We're in there trying to solve float problems and all this other stuff. And all right, let me just link it real quick. Yeah, of course, AKJ. Appreciate you guys coming out and hanging out with me, talking stocks. It's always fun. All right, here we go. All right. There we go. So if you're not part of our Discord, it's free. Just come join us, hang out, go check it out, see. A lot of people are in the Aterian channel, or you can go to individual stocks, and there's a couple in there that are being active and people are talking about. So, but yeah, good talking to you guys. Everyone have a great evening, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. All right. Thanks so much.